listeners. We're back. Welcome to another episode of the No Nay Never podcast. I'm your host, Natalie Bromley, and after a short break, we are back with your favourite Burnley podcast and to give you all the lowdown on what's going on with the mighty Clarets. We have had to take a small break with one thing and another, details of which we're not going to bore you with. But rest assured, the No Nay Never podcast is back, better than ever, and raring to go for the second half of this season. I am joined this week by my fellow panellist, Rich Steele. Rich, hello, sir. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. How are you?
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Neely, Natalie, hiya viewers. When he said favourite podcast, I thought Tom was going to walk through my door. Definitely not George.
George is like, well, you say that. Like Adam, Robert, Charlotte, they're falling down the pecking order. They've not been on for absolutely ages. It's you and Tom neck and neck at the moment. And then George just comes in to get us into bother online and drop a few clangers and then disappears again to something else. Right, okay. Quite a lot has happened since we last caught up. It feels like it's been longer than it actually has. It has only been a few weeks since we put one out. It was sort of like the beginning of the festive period when we got the last podcast out, and we've just missed the Christmas period with one thing or another. But quite a lot has gone on since then, Rich. And I think it's fair to say that it all feels very doom and gloom at the moment around Burnley Football Club, both in terms of national media exposure and how the fans are feeling. And just everybody feels very, like this feels like Vincent Kompany's reign all over again. But we are going to have a look at we're going to do a bit of a midway report, you and I, in preparation for the Newcastle game tomorrow night, because we've done one half of the fixtures now. I mean, we want to see how we think we've done. But before we do that, I want to start with the Everton game, because contrary to the doom and gloom that seemed to circulate social media on after the 27th, you had reasons to feel pretty positive after that game, right? Talk us through where your logic was and how you felt with that game.
I think ultimately you can evaluate the season as a whole, which we're going to do, and so far where you can evaluate an isolation or evaluate each game in isolation. And I think I thought we give a really good account of ourselves. I thought we looked a lot more solid at the back. Everton's best chance of the game came from when we give the ball away in midfield. Obviously, Luis come on, maybe didn't expect to come on, was caught a bit cold. Which obviously Dubravka made a great save. And let's be honest, in my opinion, there was only really one team trying to win that game closer to the end. Like you said, I understand people on Twitter, and it's a valid point. We didn't have a shot on target. We kept with the five at the back all the game. There could have been that argument to maybe take LeBron off, for example, and bring another striker on. And I get all those, but ultimately, and this goes back to Parker, doesn't it? And there's been a lot of criticism for Parker. Quite a lot of it has been fair. I think some of it has been unfair, but it's not his fault that players are missing or not hitting the target from simple chances. It's not his fault that final ball's poor. It's not his fault that Fleming in the last minute, listen, it looked a really close offside if he went to VAR, with that he hit the post. It's not his fault that Brun Larson decides to lob Pickford from 12 yards, which is hard to get the ball up and down. So there's been games I've been very critical of Park and very critical of the way we've defended in particular, and how soft we are, or how soft we've been defensively. But I felt Bournemouth rode our luck a little bit, but there was positives, and I thought there was a lot of positives from the Everton game. And I think if one of those chances goes in, which we created a lot of, Humphrey's one where it came back to him and he hit it wide, if one of those chances goes in, everyone will be saying what a really good performance it is. I know Everton were missing players, obviously, like Grealish and Jai, Dewsbury Hall were playing, and it's definitely an opportunity missed to end this winless run. But I thought we did a lot of good things, and I felt there was a lot of positivity from people, not positivity, but a lot of appreciation for actually the effort people put into the game. A lot of appreciation from the fans who were at the game on the 27th, whatever day that was, normal Saturday, wasn't it? And then you go online and listen, obviously it's a little bit negative, and understand it in the context of the season, but I couldn't agree with people saying that we didn't try and win that game. I just think that's not true. And I get people saying, well, they could have maybe gone more attacking and gone forward at the back. But I just find it funny, the same people who kind of whinge about us being really open and kind of conceding soft goals left, right and centre. Well, we've gone more solid in the last 2 games, and we've been a lot more
Now we're boring.
competitive.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, what do you want? And I think people don't seem to grasp the fact that the players aren't good. We've not got a good Premier League quality squad this year. I see people on Twitter, and this isn't disrespectful. Listen, people's got the right to the opinion, and they're like, well, Parker's been given a good quality squad. No, he's not. And I do think, well, if you watch quite a lot of Premier League football, when I watch quite a lot, I don't watch as much as I used to before the little one came, but I do watch football. And we're not our players on the whole are nowhere near the quality. They are championship players, and yeah,
What's in there, Rich? Where do you?
I don't just think it's all on Parker, all
No.
this, which is what I'm going back to.
Where do you put this squad, though, in comparison to, because I've been guilty of this, and I'll come on to this in a minute. I was one of the ones that was really impressed with the transfer window, and I felt at the time that it was probably the strongest Premier League squad that we put together. How do you
on what?
Squad compared
I'll put a question. Based on what, though?
Well, I'll come back into a minute, but before we get there, how you just said then that this is a weak squad, and I get that it's really weak compared to the rest of the Premier League. It absolutely is. But how does this team for you stack up compared to the one of Vincent Kompany's era 2 years ago? Is it better or worse than that?
I'm going to answer your question in 2 parts. I'm going to answer the real specifics of it. But when we finish that transfer window, I'd love to know how many Burnley fans will actually say we're going to stay up. Not many.
I didn't, but I was in both. I thought that it was a good transfer window, but I also didn't think we were going to stay up.
And we're in a position now where we're not going to stay up, but yet people are still saying, why are we not staying up? So it's kind of like, well, you expected us to go down. We are going to go down probably. So it's kind of, we are where you
What's
thought
your argument? What's your case, basically?
A little bit. And I just feel some of the criticism has been, listen, it's frustrating when you lose games, listen, half an hour after a game. And there's certain games which I'm going to pick up on, which are more frustrating than others. But compared to the Kompany team, I think this is definitely more of a team. We are more competitive. But individually, maybe other than the defence, I don't think we've got as a good squad, or in my opinion. I think I look back to it and I go we've got no winger anywhere near as good as Odegaard. No. I think Ogachukwu a good player, but I don't think anyone's as good as Burge. I'd probably say Dubravka's probably an upgrade on Premier League Trafford in the first instance. And then
I think Muric.
Yeah, listen, I'm Muric. And I think the back four is maybe much of a muchness, but I think the way Kompany played is not ideal. But again, that goes back to the argument. I don't think ALK have got 3 summer transfer windows right so far in the reign in the Premier League. Listen, you can argue that
they had 2, right?
Well, they still had the summer transfer window, the summer.
No, they came in the Christmas, didn't they? They
came in the Christmas. We stayed up, and then we had a full season.
I thought that first half was the one that was like Dash, wasn't it?
No. So they came in January when it was COVID, stayed up, and then we had the summer transfer window. We bought Connor Roberts, a couple of other players, and then we went down. We bought Cornet in the summer, and then we went down. So I'd argue and go, well, they've had 3 summer transfer windows and they've not delivered the goods. And in my opinion, that's the main issue at Burnley is the current board. Yes, we can argue that they've done good things, and they have done obviously from. We have a lot of, I think the best thing they've done is the women's team. I think I'd be lying if I said I followed it as closely as you or Tom did. I don't. Maybe that's ignorance of me, but I don't follow it as closely. I'm just being honest. And so there are good things, but they don't get enough right on the pitch. It's as simple as that. And I think more and more people are realizing that. And I think I do think this Kompany's squad is slightly better. I think you look at it we had Amdouni, for example, who would have made a difference. I don't know.
Stepped up. Yeah, I wish we'd have kept him this year.
I'd rather, knowing the quality we've got in the final third of the pitch this year.
Yeah.
I'd rather have Amdouni. But you look at that team that started on against Everton. Jesus Christ, it is championship level. And again, I'm happy for people to disagree with me on this. In my opinion, the only player I would take from Burnley's squad at this moment in time, if I was a Premier League club for next season, is Ugachukwu. Because I think he's not quite the finished article, but I think he's got the profile and the pedigree and the more he's playing, he's looking a really good Premier League player.
Somebody would take Walker. I think somebody will take Dubravka.
I wouldn't take Walker, no.
Do you not think somebody would take...
No, he's not good enough.
Josh Cullen?
No. I'm talking about the Premier League now is really high quality.
Yeah.
Right, so I'm talking about would Cullen getting Bournemouth team? Would Cullen getting Brentford's team? Would he getting... So for Nottingham, and this goes back to the quality of the players, so Nottingham Forest are listen, I know there's been stuff going on with the manager and Postecoglou coming in and it didn't work, but like we're talking about quality of players. How many Burnley players getting Nottingham Forest starting 11? Whether that's listen, it could be a rhetorical question and maybe a question to the listeners. Not many. They've got Anderson who's been starting for England, and they've got Gibbs White who's been in the England squad just out of in central midfield positions. They've got a lad who's been, so you're kind of like, this is the point I'm making. It's not like we've got a bad team or we've got bad players, but we've got players who just aren't quite good enough to stay up in which is a very competitive Premier League. And then added to the fact that in this loss, in this winless run, we've just been conceding really soft goals.
Defensively, very weak.
And that's
we haven't been good defensively since Dyche left.
And that's my biggest frustration. Like I thought we've actually scored more goals than I thought we would do, if I'm being honest. But we've conceded way more than not way more, but we've conceded more soft goals. Now I look at the approach we've had in the last 2 games, and it is a bit more negative, and people wouldn't like it because they'd be whinging that it's not attacking enough. But if we had this approach all season or in these games that we've lost, I think we'd have more points than we had now. Than we would have had now. Like I actually think this is the right approach to take, because there's no point. Because I feel when we play 4 at the back, we're just too easy to score against, especially from set pieces and crosses. And look how much better we've been defending set pieces and crosses the last 2 games. Like,
but then when we go 5 at the back, we don't create anything.
Well, this is the point I've made. But we did create stuff against Everton.
Yeah.
We did create chances. We did, I know we didn't have a shot on target, but that's poor finishing. Like, you had some, we did have.
Rich, really poor up front. Like we
don't
have scorers.
But that's quality, isn't it? Yeah. So that's the argument. Is it Parker or is it the quality? Now you're not gonna make. This is the point I'm making. Like, you're not gonna make like these players all of a sudden Premier League quality. We have not. Everyone keeps going, well, we can put Shawana out wide, then it's JBL, then Edwards, then Anthony. I think Edwards has got a little bit of extra something, but he still gives the ball away a lot. And then you had it where we had that shooting opportunity and he's trying to cross it back across goal, instead of just shooting on the volley. So you're like, I think Parker can release the handbrake a little bit more, but he's not got the players who are going to create.
No, he hasn't.
It's his fault. Like, what would Pep do with these? What would Pep do with Brum Larson? Christ, he's slower than bloody Father Christmas after 50 mince pies, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? And everyone's like, well, play Trezor. If you genuinely, as a Burnley, think Trezor is going to make a difference, I think you're in Clark Cuckoo land. Should he be given more money? Should he be given more minutes? Maybe. But if you think Trezor's all of a sudden going to make us win games and create loads of chances like Messi would do. So...
And we're not built up that way either. That's the problem. We're not built up that way either.
And I remember, anyone who watches cricket will know Nasser Hussain, who's a very wise man. He always says players are better when they're out of the team. So somebody like an Edwards or Trezor, they're always better players when they're not playing. And you see Edwards, he did okay, and he got into the game a bit more, and he played a lovely ball to Brum Larson, but just playing Marcus Edwards instead of Anthony is not all of a sudden going to turn you into a top-half Premier League team. And I think this is where we're at the moment. And Bro's just done okay. He's showing signs, isn't he? But, again, he's a lad who's coming back from a lot of injuries. Fleming's done okay, but, Fleming scored goals, but he lacks in other areas. Foster's Foster. Then then obviously there's AFCON, and you got like Annabelle. Should he come in? Then when he comes in, he's like, well, should he be starting? And this is we've just got a lot of players who just aren't quite good enough
Yeah,
in that final third.
We've not got stability in terms of player selection, player performance, or a strategy in game. It feels like we're halfway into the season. It just feels like we don't yet know what we're doing. We haven't.
But because
found
you're not winning, when you're not winning, you're going to have to change it. I feel sorry for him because people will be like, well, you've got to change it, but then when you change, because we're not winning, but then when you change it, you've not got a set strategy. So it's really difficult when you're not winning. And Parker's got to take his blame. Cullen said in an interview after that Fulham game, the players have got to look after themselves as well. You know, going back to those effort levels, and I'm not going to single him out too much, but you know, Harmon got dropped, didn't he? Because you know, Harmon cost you 2 goals against Fulham. So where I'm at is, you know, I'll go back to, you know, if Sean Dyche had this team, would we be doing better? And that's a question. Yeah, maybe. But would another manager get more?
Because Dyche is a better
No.
manager than Parker, and Dyche knows how to be more more resilient defensively. Parker, for me, he is way, way too scared for me as Parker, whereas Dyche is a bit more bullish.
Scared of what, though? Scared of what?
He's scared of going for it. He's
Yeah, but when
scared
he goes for it, we get beaten comfortably.
when he doesn't go for it, we get beaten comfortably.
But so like Fulham game, we could we pressed more. We was all like Luis was all he was never in midfield. You know, I showed you that heat map on the WhatsApp group. He was mainly played left wing. So like when we go and press, we just get caught. So in my opinion,
if the result's the same, then Rich, and this is where I'm coming from. This is just a different psychological perspective for me. If the result's going to be the same, as you're going to get beaten either way, surely
yeah, this is why I think
going for it than not.
Yeah, but the point is, if you go for it, you're gonna do exactly what Company did and get battered. When you've got a set of players who aren't good enough, if you really go open and attacking, you're just gonna get battered. So you might as well try and stay in the game and nick a goal, because that's the only way this squad of players is going to consistently get results, in my opinion. I don't think they're good enough. So let's say we go for it, Natalie, and we all of a sudden start I'm going to say start bombing players forward, right? It's like say you put 6 or 7 players forward. Who's defending then? Ekdal and Perez. So let's say Walker goes up on the right wing, and you've got your midfield. Let's say your midfield going to the box, and you've got no one covering, and you've got Newcastle with the pace of Gordon, Murphy. Let's say Barnes plays Bruno, Tonali, Miley, who's played fullback, and they're coming forward against Perez, Humphreys, and Ekdal.
Yeah.
Like, to get where I'm coming from, it's like look at that Newcastle game, last game of the season, when we went for it the first 20 minutes when we needed to against Company, when there was a chance of us staying up. And what happened after 20 minutes, because we went bombing forward and pressing, we got picked off and Wilson scored twice. So this is where I kind of get where people are coming from in the last 20 minutes of the game. When you need to win in the last 20 minutes, take LeRon off and go 4-4-2 or whatever. Like, you don't need 5 at the back of then, you know, you're kind of in the game. But you've seen in the games we've tried to play 4 at the back, and, you know, I just think we get picked off a little bit. I think the worst game for me was Palace. I think that's the Palace game where we were just so sloppy. Like, there was no intent. But when a team sits in, it's difficult. Like, I watched Palace against Tottenham yesterday. It was almost like roles reversal. Palace put in a very Burnley-like performance, but he just didn't have anything in the final third. So where I'm coming from is, I just think we've got a group of players who aren't good enough. And I also think we've got a manager who's probably not good enough. But where I am with it is that I feel some of the criticism that he's got has been unfair, because it's like everything's his fault. And it seems like, to me, a lot of people who didn't want him here in the first place have all of a sudden really got every little thing he does now is scrutinized. And I'm like, do you genuinely think that maybe Dyche will keep this team up? I don't know. But look at Nuno, for example. He's gone into West Ham with a crap group of players and they're struggling. It doesn't.
And everyone thought he was going to keep them up, and
they're probably going to go down.
Yeah.
And, you know, so, and I look at Leeds, And I think Leeds is the one where like they've obviously kicked on and we beat them at Turf Moor, but we did a podcast just after the Leeds game and saying, the amount of crosses and we're allowing into the box. And when we beat Wolves, they scored 2 goals from crosses. And, we've kind of got punished. And yeah, and I think the frustrating point is we've been in games, we've not been battering teams creating loads, but and then it's more the sloppy goals we've been conceding than the other end for me.
Yeah, that's a really good
Like,
point.
against Fulham, conceding sloppy goals, West Ham away. West Ham away, we scored 2 and still lost. We scored against Fulham, we scored against, so, we're not scoring any more than we did in the Dyche reign, but we've just been far too soft. And that's why he's gone to the other way and kind of gone, well, we'll go 5 at the back and kind of, go for it a little bit more. But yeah, I definitely would agree that I can't disagree with people saying that he needs to let the handbrake off more. But against Everton, I thought that was a little bit harsh in that game. So.
Okay. So where we are then, we've got a bit of I just want to pick your brains now as where you think we are on the halfway mark and see to what extent our listeners agree. But I'm going to leave the headline summary to the end because I think there's a lot of things there that you've already covered, and I want to just do a shorter sort of recap summary when we get to the end of this. And moving these around a little bit just to flow naturally from what you were just saying there. Where I guess all of these probably fit into one. I'm looking at where we think the weakest section of players are, where we think the strongest section of players are, and flowing from those where you think we need to strengthen in this January transfer window. And I'll make a start here just to give you a little bit of a break because I'm very conscious there's just 2 of you today and you've been talking quite a lot.
Oh, for me, talking.
I know. You and I, if we were together, we could literally put a 3-hour pod out. Everybody be like, Jesus, guys, come on, wrap it up. But for me, up front is a real problem for me. I know defensively we are very weak at the moment in terms of conceding goals, but even just looking at some of the games where we could perhaps have turned those losses into a draw or a draw into a win, we have so little, if any, class and real impact up front. And to me, that is a really big problem. So I think for me, the up front is there. And I don't think that's necessarily from a personnel perspective. I think Fleming's working really hard to try and, he's come from MK Dons to Burnley to the Premier League and he's never played in the Premier League. Millwall, sorry. Yes, thank you. And I know there was an M in there somewhere. And he's working really, really hard. It's not his, so there's not a blame here on the players. They are working hard, but the width is not there and the strikers aren't there. We've got Fleming, we've got Breuer, and we've got Foster, and we've got Ashley Barnes. It's that's just not clinical enough, and we're still playing Fleming in his wrong position. So as a general space, that's a problem for me. And I think defensively, I think we're missing a leader at centre half to play alongside a Stev. So they're the main 2 areas for me. So I think that for me, I'm going to hand over to you then. So from your perspective, where are you pinpotting that weaker set of players, the stronger set of players, and where you want to strengthen?
I think going to your striker point, I think you make really good points, but I'm just got some stats up here. Fleming scored the same amount of goals as Clarets, same amount of goals as Watkins, more goals than Gakpo, more goals than Salah, 1 less than Bromley and João Pedro. I don't understand why Fleming's not starting.
No,
I genuinely don't. He works hard. He can't run in behind, but fair enough, and maybe that's for Brozier. But I'd personally play Brozier on the wing at the moment, cutting in. But my biggest issue is is those wingers. And Anthony started the season, he got us a few goals, but watching our wide players, and this is where I go back to Parker, right? And the and other people say, well, release the handbrake. Well, there's no point releasing the handbrake if you've got nobody to press the accelerator.
Yeah, true.
And you have got wingers there who are not Premier League class. Listen, Shawan has come from a league, he's got a great goal against Leeds. I've been Anthony's biggest plaudit, but my word, he looks awful at the moment. Bless him. Yeah, I can't keep watching Brun-Larsen. I just cannot keep watching him. I feel like when Anthony was come on for Brun-Larsen, it was like bringing Dummer on for Dummer. Like, and I'm just struggling to watch them too. We played Foster out wide a little bit, a who's a striker in it really. Then you've
Yeah.
got Edwards who looks like does the odd nice thing, but then how many times did Edwards just fall over the ball? Jesus,
His physicality is a problem for me, and
if
I've
that
said this before on the pod.
like but my thing is with Edwards, I'll cope with all that if when he gets in and around the box, he puts quality in, and he only put one quality ball in, which we should have scored from. But that, in my opinion, was the only real contribution, and he was falling over himself, wanting more time. And like,
Yeah.
I think this is where people have a little bit of favouritism and bias. If Edwards played that performance Anthony did, everyone would have said, "What? Why are we playing him?" So and that comes back to Trezor, and I'm like, you might as well give him a goal, but Trezor's not going to be like this, like all of a sudden message coming to the team. So for me, the wingers are just by far the weakest position.
Yeah.
I think
They're the most
midfield is
expensive, though, right?
well, yeah, your forward players are, and this is where they come from. But like you look at, and me and the lads who were in the pub the other day, and we were talking about strikers, and look at all the strikers that used to be about. Even in like the championship, you always had goal scorers, didn't you? Like, man,
Yeah.
like your Andy Grays, for example. I'm just like Ross McCormack said. You go back to even lower leagues like your Jamie Curetons, and you go back to England strikers back in the day like Shearer, Sutton, Les Ferdinand, Stan Collymore, Fowler. There's just a lack of strikers at the
Yeah.
top level now, so it doesn't get filtered down. I think midfield, I'm still 50-50 on Luis. I think he did one wonderful ball. Florentine, he did one wonderful ball to Walker when Walker overhit a simple square ball when Brun Larsen was in the middle, but then he gave the ball away, which led to that really good Everton chance. I think he dives in too much, and I get his role is to try and win the ball back, but he's a bit here, there, and everywhere. I think Cullen's done really well. Again, he's been our most consistent player, but hopefully his injury's not too bad. And I really like Ugachukwu. I think he's really good.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think centre halves are all much of a must. I think I was really expecting Esteve to play well, and he's been poor. Esteve wouldn't play for me even if he was fit now. I think he's lost his shit, and he's not, and I wouldn't start him. Even if you play a back, even if you play a back four, I'd play Humphries instead of him. And this is where I'm critical of Parker. And I don't like to dig individual players out and be personal with them, but Twanzebe isn't good enough, and Ekdal's not perfect, but Ekdal's a better player than Twanzebe. And to me, to play Twanzebe for so long, I thought was the wrong decision. I thought Walker started well and he's faded, which is this is 36, isn't he? Jesus, and then
He
Hartman
can't do it
started,
all.
and Hartman started well and has just fallen off a cliff. I
What
think
is going on with him? There's now rumours that he's going in January.
attitude. I reckon it's just attitude.
Bad egg.
Poor.
Yeah.
It's poor. And that's one thing. And people can disagree with me, and I don't, and I don't think they're right. I don't think there's been a lack of effort or a lack of togetherness in this team, which I think there was under the company team. Like you look at when the goal went
Yeah, I
in
think
against,
I agree with that actually.
like look at when the goal went in for against Bournemouth. All the players, and you can't say there was a lack of effort. Some of the blocks and tackles and Ugachukwu, like he was basically playing in a two-man midfield against a three because we played five at the back. And he
Yeah.
had to play the full game because Cullen went off. And he absolutely ran his socks off. He was running, and these are things I noticed, and that wasn't happening in the company team. And how many times this season I know we ended up losing the game, but we did come from a goal down to equalise against Brentford. We showed spirit against Bournemouth, where we probably would have lost 2 or 3-0 under company and just completely folded. So, and then obviously Dubravka's been a great signing. So I agree with you. I think striker, I just don't think there's any about. But wingers are for me where I'm watching it and I just go, we're miles off it, Natalie.
Yeah, we are.
Every single winger is miles off it. But I do agree. I'd listen. You watched Tarky the other night, and he looked like he was having a bit of a strolling part, didn't he? Imagine if you had Tarky in this team.
Oh, don't.
And that's where you go back to Dyche's teams. He had Tarky, me and Pope, or Tarky, me and Eaton,
That
and
was
then Keane,
incredible.
and then Tarky.
We used to
We
get
got no.
criticised back in the day for having a dinosaur squad and like people turn
Yeah,
the nose up.
we still had some good
Oh,
players.
me and talkSPORT, that was an amazing spine of that defence.
And look at the season we went down. Me was injured a lot, So and I know he's gone back to Sheffield now, but me had a really good time at Brentford. Pope's done well at Newcastle. Tarky's Everton captain now and is playing really well. So I think, like you look at the defence and you kind of go, well, and then this is a criticism of ALK because you lose Egan Riley and you replace him on the cheap with Twanzebe, who's not good enough.
Yeah.
And you look at what you get. Dubravka's been a great signing. I think that's been a really, really good signing. But I think the recruitment was one of me again. Where I was just like, well, yeah, I just felt okay, but we don't know where any like. I did also feel, well, where's the quality going to come from?
Yeah.
When I seen these signings, I look at Leeds. People go, well, we should be similar level at Leeds, but they've spent 30 million on a midfielder Stack, who was a top player in the Bundesliga, and they spent just over 20 million on Okafor from AC Milan. So we didn't sign anyone anywhere near that
No.
quality. Listen, they took a punt on Calvert-Lewin, who I don't think anyone expected. We all know what Calvert-Lewin can do in terms of holding the ball up when he's fit, but I don't think anybody expected him to get the goals that he's got and gone in this purple patch. So yeah, to kind of like run through the team. Unfortunately, I think there's more areas of weakness than there is strengths, isn't there?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. Let's move it to a slightly more positive one then. What's been your favourite moment of the first half of the season?
I wasn't at the game, but I got to be that Wolves away, that last minute goal. It was great, even though we lost. I enjoyed the second half because listen, I went to that game. I enjoyed the second half performance at Man United, and I felt they were two big moments this season, not getting those points against Liverpool and United in the last minute. But
and a similar thing from that, Rich.
Wolves,
my favourites was probably that Liverpool at home performance.
Yeah,
it felt like a real dogged. It felt like Burnley were back. It felt like the DNA of Burnley. And even though we ended up losing that game, that was a respectful performance.
Doesn't that reiterate the point I made at the beginning then that we should have, I'm not saying play that defensive against every team, but I still think we should have gone back to being a little bit more compact. But listen, that's kind of gone now. But yeah.
You're right. You are right.
And we're not, do you know what? We aren't a million miles away. We aren't, and we're not a million miles away. And this is the frustrating thing.
Feels it a little bit, don't you think? Feels like we're miles off sometimes when I look at it, and I look at
the tape
playing and Sunderland.
You look at the
tape, and you think, God.
But again, they've got better players. Like people may argue that, and that's fine, but I think they have. You look at Sunderland yesterday. You take them 6 lads who went to AFCON, and they looked quite an average side. So no matter how good a manager you are, you still need the quality players at this level.
Yeah, that is really true. Actually, that is true.
But it's just the soft goals that's annoyed me more than anything. So whether that's Parker, the coaching staff, the players individually, how many soft goals have we conceded? So like West Ham away, Brentford away, Fulham at home, Palace at home. There are games where, let's say you draw all 4 of them games and don't even win one, you're 2 points away from 18th. You're above West Ham. And I think that's my frustration. Those are 4 games against, I know West Ham are struggling, but against kind of established Premier League clubs where there's been no difference in the two teams. If anything, against Fulham, we were the better team. And we conceded sloppy goals. Everton, another one, we were the better team, but we were the better team. And, I know we didn't concede against Everton, but you look at that and you go, what's frustrating for me on that isn't the performance, it's them sloppy goals. Switching off those headers at the back post. You talk about Walker, an experienced player against Brentford when he'd just gone 1-1 and just getting beat by his man at the back post. Yeah. Anthony just looking, daydreaming, and that Munoz comes in and scores. Fulham, like he said, such easy goals. Players ball watching, and it's that the coaching they get, is that the players themselves. It's it's hard to say.
A bit of both, Rich.
A bit of both, and you know what as well? It's not easy when you've got that lack of confidence.
No, and you get
yeah, and I do think, and I hope, I'm not saying we'll stay up or we'll beat Newcastle, but I do think there'll be a little bit more confidence going into tomorrow's game on the back of these 2 results. But yeah,
fingers crossed.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, then, because I think we've said enough in terms of, I'm not going to talk about the worst moments. I don't think that's probably counterproductive. It's
probably I'll answer it. Probably that West Ham game for me was the most upset I've been.
I Actually, that's true, because that also feels like that was a turning point as well.
A little bit. We're on the back of a good
then.
run. Yeah, we were on the back of a good run. I think we won them 2 games and lost to Arsenal, but give them a half decent game, and then we're winning 1-0 at West Ham.
West Ham, sorry.
Yeah,
it is. So give me then your midway half-season report card for Scott Parker, please.
It's not been good enough. Where I'm coming from is that I feel some of the criticism has been unfair and some of the criticism has been just. There's definitely times where he could be more aggressive, but I also feel that, again, like I've said a million times, the one I'm more annoyed with is the soft goals. I think he's a little bit like the players. I don't think he's a million miles away, but I don't think he's Premier League quality. But I don't think he's been given the best tools to deal with the Premier League this season.
So what mark are you giving him out of 10? Why do I keep going to that viewpoint, actually?
4.
4 out of 10. That's scathing.
4, 5. Well, listen, you can't give a manager who's 12 points after 18 games, but like I put on Twitter before, in the season we stayed up instead, if it was 2018-19 instead of Cardiff, when we lost 5-1 or 5-0 to Everton on Boxing Day, we had the same amount of points. Now, listen, obviously the game after Heaton McNeil come in, and we had a really good run. I'm not sure this team's got them in them, but it's tough in the Premier League. It's tough.
Yeah, it really is.
Tough. Like, you look at Everton, when this way you're talking about a manager, you take Everton's 2 best players out of their team against Burnley, and they were awful. They were as bad as us.
Mm.
And no matter how good Moyes as a manager is, and imagine if you put Grealish and Ndiaye in this Burnley team. Yeah, and then and this is where it's 4, 5 out of 10. One thing I will say is, again, I've got a lot of respect for him. Do you know what? All the way in the time for his Burnley, the way he's conducted himself as he's an absolute gentleman in a football industry which is full of idiots. He's an absolute gentleman, and I don't. Whether he's good enough or not, fine. Could we have sacked him? Maybe. A couple of times I was like, maybe it is time for him to go, because he did look defeated. But you've got to be honest. The way he's bounced back. When he keeps going, and like I said, the way the players talk about him, they do want to play for him. But it's just, I just think the manager and the players just aren't good enough. Okay. Both.
That's fair enough. That is fair enough. Okay, 2 final questions for you. I want you to give me your reasonable expectations for the rest of the season and your headline summary in a very short. So, what's the sound bite that you leave from us? What sound bite do you leave us with this season? So let's start with that one. Your reasonable expectations for this season.
Yeah. So we've had 18 games. So we've got 20 to go, haven't we? Including obviously Newcastle.
Had 19, haven't we?
No, 18. 18. I'm 99% sure. 18, yeah.
Yeah, we've had 18. Okay, cool.
So 20 games to go. So we're not playing. Who've we not played?
Yeah, that's what I mean. No. Surely we're at the second half now, because we're playing Newcastle again.
I know, but we have played 18, haven't we? So everyone's played 18.
Yeah, so who are we missing? Who have we not played?
How weird is that?
How weird is that?
We played Wolves, West Ham, played Forest at home, Leeds at home, Bournemouth. Not played Brighton.
No, we haven't.
We played Brighton away after Newcastle.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so anyway,
sorry, listeners, we need to figure that out before.
I do think these last 2 games he's got a little bit more settled on what he wants to do and how he wants to play.
Okay.
Whether people agree on that or not, but I personally feel it's the right thing to go, to try and stay in games, and hopefully we can get goals and, like I said, be a bit more clinical when we get the ball in that final third. I don't think we'll stay up, but I think we'll get more points. And I do feel that when we come to the end of the season, we'll be closer to the relegation zone than what we are now. And I also feel
we won't cut as far adrift.
No, and I do listen. We'll see. People can bookmark this, but I suppose you have an opinion. And I do think at some point Leeds will have a bad run, and we'll pick up some runs, and the gap will tighten. We'll see what.
Do you think West Ham will get better?
No, I think they'll go down. I think we'll come above West Ham.
At the moment, you think it's us, Wolves, and West Ham?
Yeah.
Massive, right? West Ham going down.
Yeah, massive. But they just look terrible. Other than Bowen and listen, Paquetá's a bit of a luxury player. Bowen's but they look slow. Like like they look slow and not lump. But anyway, so yeah, I do think we'll pick up more points. But we might not do. But yeah, we might not do. And that's just maybe that's a bit of hope to try and be a bit positive. But I do think we will maybe start seeing this formation. But I do agree with people. The last 20, 25 minutes when we need a win, we can change to a back four then. My soundbite for this season is just listen. Obviously, people will have the view. I would just always say, like, I know I'm living in Ireland at the moment, so I'll probably get one home game a month every 5 weeks. Keep supporting the team because ultimately, you've got a group of players here and a manager who genuinely does care. Whether they get it right all the time or whether they've got the quality is a different question. But just keep supporting the team, get behind them. That's my first thing on the playing side of it. My second side of it is where I feel uncomfortable about where the team will go and progress is with the board. I didn't really say too much at the time because people seemed to be quite giddy about it, but I didn't like the Espanyol thing initially. I was like, it's in the wrong time when they're trying to establish us as a Premier League club when they've not got much, when they've got no money themselves, really, have they? To kind of go into that venture. People say, no, it won't make any difference, and fine. But I just don't see how, like, in my opinion, you've had three managers. You've had Dyche, Company, Parker, and the same cycles happened 3 times with this board of average recruitment. I'm not going to say poor recruitment, but average recruitment for the Premier League. And the same patterns are repeating themselves. So I was a critic of Company. I didn't like the way he did things. I didn't like the way he conducted himself. And I think that's the difference between him and Parker. But what's the common denominator here? Listen,
Yeah.
and it is getting harder and harder to stay up in the Premier League. And I do think, well, I hope, I don't know, the heart's in the right place. They obviously want Burnley to be a Premier League club because they'll make money off it. But my opinion is, yeah, where are we going under this board? Because they've been here, since January? Been like about 5 years now, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah.
And we've not got better. It got worse. If you look at it statistically, we got worse. So that's my kind of sound point for moving forward is keep behind the team because you have got a team who cares here. But where are we going under this board? And I think soon, and I think it's more and more people are turning, not in a personal way. I think Burnley fans are really good with that. But people are going to start asking more questions. And this board, particularly Mr. Pace, have talked a lot of good game. We're going to do this, we're going to do that. But they're not delivering. And they've had a long time now. And there's other things that are going on with the club that people aren't happy with, like the way they handle people moving the seats. Little things like that. Little things for me, like, and I understand the corporate side's got to be built, but me and my dad would always go in the foundation club and that just got completely rid of. Why couldn't they have both? Listen, that's a personal thing to me, but there's just, yeah, I'll leave it on that to kind of my final reflection. So, yeah.
Love it. Rich, thank you as ever. Your analysis and the breakdown of your game and your passion always comes through really well. I love having you on the show and I love listening to you. I could listen to you for hours. At one point, we will put a 3-hour podcast out, you and me. We'll get a bottle of wine and a beer. We'll put a 3-hour one out. Listeners, what do you think? What's your halftime report? Drop us some comments in the YouTube channel below. Those of you who are listening to this on the podcast channel, drop us a line on social media. Who do you think has excelled? Who do you think needs to pull their socks up? What's your halftime rating for Parker? And what are your expectations for 2026? While you're there, hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode of the original and your favourite Known and Never podcast. We will be back next week. We'll probably be back at some point in between the Newcastle game and the Cup game just to try and break some things down. We'll speak to Tim and see how we can get one out there. And then by the time the Premier League returns again, hopefully if I can grovel and be nice to Statman Dave, we'll be back with a preview show as well. I've been Natalie Bromley. This has been the Known and Never podcast. Until next time. The Known and Never podcast is brought to you in association with the talkSPORT Fan Network. Our host and editor is Natalie Bromley, and the show is produced by Matt Moss. Our resident statistician is Dave Roberts, and our FPL expert is Adam Dennett. The Analysis Show team is collectively Tom Whittaker, Rich Steele, George Poole, Charlotte Rigby and Adam Dennett. Our music is provided by George Gaskell, and our newsletter team is headed up by Jamie Smith. If you don't already, you can subscribe to our newsletter by visiting nonanever.substack.com. Thanks as ever go to our partners talkSPORT. We are proud to be associated with the talkSPORT Fan Network.